Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Going Rounds podcast. Newest episode. We are on 95, getting closer to that 100 mark. Still don't know if I'm doing anything exciting for 100. It's just another episode. to milestone, I guess. Getting to that 100 mark, but I don't know. Unless it fell on something special or specific, I don't know that I'll do anything crazy. Might just be like, yeah, episode 100, this is cool. Who knows? I might change my mind, but we're back, and after last weekend of just having nothing but boxing on, which was pretty interesting, and we definitely gonna have to talk about that one because Haney versus Garcia was a good one, and I mean, it depends on what you want to call good, but when it comes down to it, it was interesting and entertaining. So definitely got to talk about that one. And then we have the UFC back this weekend after last week being off. Just being off for the week, after 300 and stuff. And we got a fight night. So, of course, it's not anything crazy, anything big. All their star power was used up over the past couple of months with the big UFC pay-per-views, but no big deal. At least we got some fights going on. And let's see. What else do we have? Oh, we got some bare knuckle boxing happening this weekend too. That's a pretty decent card. Some pretty big names on there. So yeah, that's what we got going. I'm thirsty, so I need a drink. That's something I think my cup is starting to fall apart after about a year of usage. But it'll still hold up. So as far as me, yeah, just been dealing with this damn puppy. Trying to get through the puppy stages. It's testing. It's testing me. More my wife because she has to deal with them all day, every day, and yeah, it's bad habits and stuff. He's still young though, so I'm hoping. I mean, we kind of went through the same thing with Benny, so I'm hoping that shit kind of, happens quick and we get to where we can just chill because it's a lot of running around like a little kid having to clean up after him and all this other shit. It's kind of annoying, but it was worth it with Benny, so it'll be worth it with Jack. And it's just the hardships of having a puppy, I guess. So, I mean, we were having to do a lot of taking care of Jade and stuff when she had to end there because, she was not doing well. And that was sad and it sucked. And you kind of gave it a pass because, she just wasn't doing well. But with this one, it's like, well, it's a puppy, so you still have that excuse, but it's pretty fucking annoying. It gets on my nerves. And I feel bad for my wife because she's, taking a lot of the responsibility on it. And, yeah, I get tired of the amount of times I see her get up and down. So then I start doing it, and then I just get tired of doing it because I'm like, okay, I want to have some time to sit and chill, or I'm trying to prep for the podcast, and it's like, fucking dog is nonstop. But it'll be all right. We'll get past it, and then it'll be worth it, I'm sure. And that's how it was with Benny. I was unsure at first with Benny. He chewed up everything. He used to chew up everything. And he still does get into shit sometimes. I'm sure if you ever had a puppy or you have one right now, you know what the fuck I'm talking about. Especially these little dogs. I mean, the big dogs, they can chew up a lot more and get crazy. So that's partly why I stay away from bigger dogs. Never thought I'd like little dogs, but I do. I'm big enough. I don't need another big motherfucking animal taking up more spaces. And I take up enough. So the little dogs, they can be a pain, but they're easy to manage. So anyway, that's about all that's going on. Work is work. Nothing crazy. Didn't have to go out of town this week, thankfully. Right? I didn't go out of town. No, I didn't go out of town this week. And my older daughter's birthday was what's today? Thursday? Tuesday. Yeah, it was Tuesday. I don't even know what the date is. I can't keep track. But yeah, happy birthday to Haley, and Dylan, her boyfriend as well, was the day after yesterday. So we're gonna have a little celebration this weekend. We went out and had dinner on Tuesday, so that was fun and good to do. Have the family together and get a dinner in. It's nice. Celebrating birthdays. So there's always a lot of birthdays around this time. It's fucking, oof. It gets a bit overwhelming. But middle of the year, most birthdays are. I don't know why. People that we know at least. But anyway, that's enough of that. Let's get into some combat sports news. We got to talk about everything that happened this past weekend and what's going on this weekend coming up. So here we go. Let's get going. And let's get started with Haney versus Garcia. Of course, like I was talking about, it was an entertaining fight. Everybody was thinking, okay, Garcia missed weight by 3.2 pounds. You know, at the press conference, he went off. Him and Haney went off on each other, and they made a bet where, because Haney was already saying there's no way he's gonna make the weight. You know, Garcia shows up with a weighted vest, all this other shit, saying, you know, that's fine. I'll bet you 500 G's that for every pound that I'm off, or that's what Haney said, and he agreed. And his dad was like, no, don't do it, because they knew he was not going to make the weight. They knew it. It was obvious after seeing the way it went down and what happened. But I guess these are the antics in boxing, apparently, is what I'm hearing. Because I don't follow boxing all that closely. I don't get as in-depth with boxing as I do with MMA. And that's because MMA is my thing. That's why I started all this. But I still have to talk about the boxing matches, especially the bigger ones that are in the mainstream, you know, that are out there. Everyone's talking about them. And I definitely want to talk about them too, because everything I listen to involves these boxing matches as well. So I know enough to talk a little bit about it. I'm not going to ever claim to be someone that knows a lot, but I know a little. And I did watch the fights. I know I always say I don't spend money on anything other than MMA, and I still don't. So I watched it how I watched it. It's all over. Sometimes you can't even avoid it. Plus, there's highlights out right away, stuff like that. But yeah, it is what it is. And I watched it, and it was entertaining. It went, you know, all 12 rounds, and it definitely shouldn't have. It definitely shouldn't have, because, man, from the get-go, Garcia looked impressive, and it goes like that in MMA too. The guy that misses weight and is weighing more, even though he's not supposed to, he winds up being the victor because they got that weight advantage. And, you know, you're probably sitting there thinking 3.2 pounds. I mean, come on. I mean, what's that really going to do? Well, he didn't have to try to cut those last couple pounds off. Those are the hardest ones. Maybe he tried, maybe he didn't, but he stepped on the scale and drank a beer, which I've heard multiple times now that it wasn't a beer. It was like sparkling apple cider and water mixed together. But who cares? This is what he wanted to put out there. And he came clean and talked about how poorly he trained for this fight. So, or how bad he got himself ready. Maybe not trained, because they always train hard. But yeah, from the get-go, I mean, this picture kind of says it all. Garcia jumped on top of Haney right away, and damn near the first punch of the fight, Garcia dropped Haney, and it was just downhill from there for Haney. He had a few spikes where he looked okay and looked good. I mean, I guess the middle of the fight was a little more leaning towards Haney, but Garcia, it was just because Garcia's cardio was not great, because his training wasn't there, and he just wasn't in the shape he's usually in. And, you know, being overweight and stuff, it's like everything's different. So his cardio wasn't there, so, you know, he couldn't carry that high pace that he put in the beginning. He couldn't carry that over into the middle round. So he kind of, I don't know if you want to say, took them off, but he definitely didn't press as hard. And, you know, Haney got his in here and there. But, yeah, Garcia in the first round right away. That left hook, man, it's a killer. And he's definitely got talent with that left hook, and he does well with it. And when he lands it good, and he's precise, and he's got some power behind it. And Haney was undefeated. Never even been knocked down, I think, from what I understand. And Haney gets dropped in the first round within the first minute. So this was looking grim for Haney right away. But Garcia you know, he was definitely talking that shit because Haney sat there in the press conference and everywhere just looking all like he had it. It was all good. There's no way he wasn't going to win and that he was going to keep that undefeated record. But Garcia came out to fight and he came out to win and he did just that. Like I said, though, towards the middle of the rounds, Haney came back. You know, he collected himself a little and he started landing. You know, he did land some good punches on Garcia. Never knocked him down, though. And, yeah, it's kind of how that went in the middle. And, of course, you know, everyone talks shit about how Garcia couldn't take that body shot from Gervonta Davis, but he had a hurt rib already. And so you punch that rib with the kind of power that Gervonta Davis has, and, yeah, you're not going to last long. So say he quit, say he did, you know, it was not an accident, but just a freak kind of thing that happened that he couldn't, you know, recover from that. It is what it is. In the end, he lost that fight. That was his first loss, and I'm sure he would want to get that back, but he was hurt. It's not an excuse, it's the fact. And, I mean, wouldn't say I'm a Garcia fan, but I just like from what I know about these guys, I like them all equally. I don't have any big favorites. Garcia had this whole thing about how crazy he was being on social media, all of his interviews. I listened to podcasts with him and the lead up and stuff, and it was pretty crazy. I talked about this before, and the TikToks were bad, you know, leading people to believe that he might even get admitted and, you know, under a psych eval and stuff like this. He looked like he was kind of losing his shit, and he didn't look good. Like, he didn't look healthy, especially for leading up to a big fight. Like, what are you doing? You're fighting for a belt. But he missed weight, so the belt wasn't up for grabs for him. But he still won. And, yeah, after Haney got some shots in, Garcia just went back to work. He got, like, should have been, like, 3 10-8 rounds. But this ref, man, the fucking ref in this fight was horrible. And I say that a lot when it comes to boxing, and it sucks because you can say that in MMA as well. But boxing is just, this is why I can't watch it all the time. There's just too much hugging. I get it that they're trying to give themselves a break and stop the beating if they're getting beat and try to hang in there. But I just got this crazy itch or something on my shoulder. So, you know, that's the way to kind of, you know, in MMA, you can take somebody down, lay on them for a minute, catch your breath, something like that. But in boxing, you got to hug each other and wait for the ref to pull you off. And it only takes a matter of seconds. But this ref was just not great at all. And it seemed as if he's giving Haney a lot of chances to recover, longer time to get up from a knockdown, stuff like that. And maybe it's because of all the crazy shit that Garcia was talking, the fact that he missed weight. You know, there's no doubt that in boxing, there's corruption. And that's all there is to it. I'm not even the biggest fan of boxing, but I hear about it left and right for all combat sports talk that happens. You hear about boxing and the corruption and the way that they run things, the way that they put together fights, people dodging people left and right, and promoters not wanting to put fights together, stuff like that. And that's the story of boxing, and that's why boxing was at a low point for a long time, because people saw that kind of shit, and they're like, look, MMA's putting together these crazy, gigantic fights that everyone wants to see, everyone talks about, even if they're not into the sport. And you got boxing, who's not putting on all these big fights. But lately, boxing has just been pretty big. There's been a lot of big matches, whether it be an MMA fighter fighting a professional boxer or a YouTuber trying to become a professional boxer fighting big names. There's a lot of boxing talk lately, a lot more than I've seen in the past. So that's a good thing for boxing. And because I like all combat sports, I say it's a good thing in general. It doesn't always have to be boxing versus MMA. It can be both, and they're both entertaining. And when big fights like this happen, it's something fun to watch and follow and see what happens and watch the stories unfold and see how the fight goes down. So, and that's basically how I treated this one. There was nothing else going on, nothing else to focus on. So I kind of focused on it. And again, I'm not the biggest fan and I don't follow it the closest, but I could talk a little bit about it. Just my thoughts and stuff. So anyway, Garcia looked damn good. You know, I watched the fight against Gervonta Davis, and he just looked a little off. Davis looked like he was just too fast and too strong at the time, and Garcia was hindered by that injury, I think. So in the end, he lost regardless. So here, though, Ryan Davis. Oh my God, I said Gervonta Davis before. Ryan Garcia was he's acting a fool in there too, but I think it's because he knew that he had Haney's number for sure, and so he was in there taunting him, dancing around, you know, trying to get at him, getting his head a little more than he already was, and in the middle of all that, he throws some good strikes, good uppercuts landing. He was landing a lot. He knocked down Haney like I counted at least 5 times. But they only counted, there was only 3 official knockdowns, which was kind of strange. Like this one here, it was almost like they didn't call it a knockdown. I think this is one of them. There's another one where Haney kind of held on and tried to catch himself on Garcia, but he still wound up on his knees. And the ref still comes over. And, you know, in MMA, when you see the ref do this, you think the fight's over. But in boxing, apparently that doesn't mean the fight's over. That he's calling a no knockdown, like if it was a slip or something. It's weird. I don't get it. I might be wrong on that. I don't know. But I saw the ref do that a couple times. And even Garcia put his hand up thinking he won, kind of started to get excited, but it wasn't the end. So it was kind of strange. And the ref was just being weird all the way around. You know, there was constantly, see, here's one where he's doing this. And it's like, it looks like he's calling the fight off, but this is the one where Haney kind of caught himself and rolled down Garcia's body as he was going down, winds up on his knees. That's a knockdown if you ask me. But of course, this ref, it's almost like he was betting on Haney and he's trying to give him every chance possible. Again, there's corruption in boxing. I don't know how deep it goes. I don't know how far it goes, and I don't know what all it involves. But for sure, like with some of the refs that we've seen in the past with bigger fights, Mayweather fights and stuff like that, there's just things that don't make sense that these refs do. So I don't know where it comes from or why it happens, but it sucks and it's annoying. You get some of the same shit in MMA, just doesn't seem to be as, it doesn't happen as often, I would say. But, you know, every sport has their flaws and their downfalls and the things that don't make sense. So boxing is definitely one of those at the top of the list that I would say when I start talking about bad things that happen in the sport. But with that ref, even with that ref being stupid, he takes a point away from Garcia. So there was definitely 2 10-8 rounds. And then there should have been 3 10-8 rounds, except, let me see what, in the 7th round, so, Haney just kept tying up with Garcia, wouldn't let him go, was leaning on him. The ref was trying to pull him apart, and Haney was still holding on. So at one point, Garcia just threw a quick little hook in and hit Haney. I'm sorry, did I say Haney? I meant Garcia threw a quick little hook in, hit Haney in the face while the ref was trying to break him up. So the ref, right away, no warning or nothing, he just fucking pulls Garcia over, takes a point away. So that should have been another 10-8 round, winds up being a 9-8. You know, Garcia still won that round because that's how impressive that round was. So 3 10-8 rounds, then a point taken. In the end, Garcia wins. So that's really all there is to it. Unfortunately, he doesn't get the strap because he missed weight. Now, as far as the scorecards go, it was a majority decision win for Garcia, not a unanimous. And that's and if you watched the fight, you would have been like, yeah, that should have been a unanimous decision, you know. But it was a majority decision because one of the judges called it a draw. So I don't know. That it was kind of strange. Like I said, the middle of the fight was a little closer. Haney kind of got his bearings back and started fighting back a little and looked a little impressive here and there. And I'm sure he won a few, obviously did win a few rounds in there. But, I mean, with all those 10-8 rounds, Garcia won no matter what. So, yeah, even with all the antics, even with all the craziness, even with all the doubts, even with missing weight, Garcia comes out on top. but he doesn't win the belt. He doesn't win the title. He doesn't take it from Haney. And what I learned this week, which I didn't know, which was in boxing, when someone misses weight, they're not eligible for the title, but the title holder should not keep the belt or the title if they lose. Apparently, they get stripped. Well, in this case, they decided to make an exception, and Devin Haney is still the champ. So that's a little strange. Again, weird stuff happening in boxing, but that's how it goes. And Garcia did what he had to do. He said he's not making weight anymore. At 140, he's going to go up to at least like 147. He's talking. I heard something about 144. I'm not good with the weight classes, so I'm not exactly sure what all those are and what the very next weight up would be. But I heard things on both sides, 144, 147. I don't know what the difference is there, or if those are actual weight class divisions, but he said he's not fighting back at 140 again because he can't make the weight. It's too difficult. And I get that. That's what happens. You start getting older. You can't, he's still young, but I mean, as you progress in age, it gets harder to cut that weight. But yeah, he jumped on oh, that was the win. Okay, so I see what I did here. Here we go. But the other thing I wanted to talk about was, you see here this Oscar De La Hoya, Golden Boy Promotions, part of the promoting here. And he's also like, I don't know if he's like the manager of Garcia or what, but he's definitely, there's been a rift between those two as well. And then you got Bernard Hopkins to the right there. And these guys, man, first of all, Bernard Hopkins, cool kind of moment. He was a little off beat. He could have made it sound a little better. Thought he had a little more rhythm than that. But he's singing Many Men at the end of after the fight, which was cool. I like that song, 50 Cent, I don't know exactly what the details were behind him singing that song, but I saw a TikTok about it and I was just like, okay. But Garcia's had his back and forth with both these guys, with Bernard Hopkins, with De La Hoya. So, but both these guys are kind of like important people in Garcia's career, I guess. One's a promoter that promotes him and manager, maybe, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure about all the details, but both these guys are always in his corner and always at his fights and always lifting him up when he wins, but they're like his handlers. And I hated this part because the post-fight, in the ring kind of interview, you got all these guys chirping in his ear. Like they're asking, the person with the mic is asking Garcia questions, and there's these people in his ear just talking, and it's like, can you get the fuck out of his ear and let the man talk? Like he starts rambling on some of the crazy stuff he was talking about, previously, and someone starts talking in his ear, and I know they're probably trying to tell him, shut up, stick to the fight talk, whatever else they're saying, don't say this, don't say that. Someone's constantly chirping in his ear. It's like, dude, back the fuck up. Like, let the man talk, let him have his moment, stop getting in his fucking ear, and let him do what he's gonna do. But no, it's like a bunch of parents just yelling in their kid's ear about what they should and shouldn't be saying. It's like, he's a grown-ass man. He's gonna act how he wants to act. They have some kind of vested interest in him, obviously, and they're trying to control him. And, even his dad is like, yelling at him, telling him shit. And it's like, dude, you guys need to back the fuck up and let this man have his moment. Whatever he wants to say, let him say it. He always starts by saying he thanks God and all that stuff, and that's fine. But after that, he starts kind of going off on a tangent. Let him do what he's going to do. Let the person interviewing him control what's happening there, so they can maybe get him off track, or back on track on what he should be talking about or something, but don't be in his ear the whole time. It's like, you might as well have a script in front of him. So that kind of shit pissed me off. It was annoying. But yeah, he gets the win. And then after a few days after, or whatever, he's on this PBD podcast. I'm not exactly sure what it is. Got the same mic still. But he's on this podcast and he starts talking about the lead up and what was happening there. This guy's questioning him as to like what was going on with him and what all the craziness was about, what all the ramblings were about. And he gets into it a little bit. he says, we have it pre-recorded months ago. What I say was going to happen. I said, I'm about to make sure everybody thinks I'm going to go crazy. I'm doing this. I'm going to do that. Watch. It's going to be called The Great Escape. Like, I have it all documented. I was already planning it weeks and months behind. So he's saying that this was all his plan. He was going to, and he's just doing it all to get in Haney's head, apparently. Making Haney think he's unstable. He's not ready. He's not getting ready. So in the end, everyone's talking about how he missed weight on purpose, probably because he was having trouble making weight. And, you know, they decided, fuck it, let's be heavier. Let's give up the chance to win the belt because you might not be making this weight again ever. And let's just go out there and prove that we can beat Devin Haney. And it worked. And that's what happens a lot of times when people miss weight and the fight continues. You know, the commission could have got involved. The promoters could have got involved, but they didn't. They let the fight happen, and Devin Haney got worked. That's really all that can be said. And on top of that, you know, Garcia, like I said, drank that beer on the scale as he's in his official weigh-in, and he's drinking a beer, supposedly. He says it wasn't really a beer. It was just antics. But he did say in serious fashion that he was drinking every day, all day. He was partying the week of and the week before the fight and just drinking all the time. So that's why he was out of shape, didn't make weight, and gassed out after a while. He got a second wind and finished that fight strong, but he did have trouble, and he was noticeably off. So all those things took place, all those things happened, and that's what he's saying, that it was all a part of the plan. So he didn't buckle down like he should have, and now he's saying he's going up in weight. He also bet $2 million on himself, allegedly, and winds up winning $12 million because he beat Devin Haney. So he bet on himself and he won. On top of that, he lost the $1.5 million to Haney because of missing weight by 3 pounds. They said $500,000 per pound. So he gave that up. But I guess from rumors and stuff was that his purse was like $40 million. Then he won the $12 million for betting on himself. And then he had to drop the 1.5 over to Haney. Shit, he came out on top. This boy's winning. And if he doesn't continue with the crazy talking and the crazy antics that he's doing, he's going to buckle down again and he's going to get serious. And, I mean, he's a great boxer. He's talented as fuck. And he has what it takes to beat people on top. So they're talking possible Haney rematch. But there's other fights in talks for him. But he's a star. A lot of people know who the fuck he is, especially with all this stuff going on TikTok, all the things he's talking about. And a lot of the shit he said made a lot of sense, especially with the ongoing craziness of the Hollywood world and with Diddy and all this other shit. So who knows? Maybe Garcia isn't as crazy as we thought. But in the end, he gets the win. He's not the champ, but he gets a big win under his belt, and we'll see what's up next for him. So that about does it for that. Let's move on to some other style of boxing. Bare Knuckle, BKFC. Knuckle Mania 4 happening this weekend, April 27th. So let's see, today's the 25th. Saturday night. Knuckle Mania happening in Los Angeles. The king of BKFC right now, fucking Mike Perry. This guy is a fucking animal. Former UFC fighter. It's like he was made for BKFC. Bare knuckle boxing is like where it's at for him, and he does well. He's just doing everything there and doing it well. He's winning and winning, fighting ex-UFC fighters, fighting guys that have a name in BKFC and beating all of them. He beat Michael Venom Page. He beat Luke Rockhold. He's beat multiple people and in impressive fashion too. But he's fighting another former UFC fighter, Thiago Alves, who's had, I think, a couple fights maybe in BKFC. I'm not exactly sure what his record is, but he has fought there before. And so this is the headline fight. There is, let's get to Oh man, I keep losing track here. I don't know why. My stream deck's fucking with my eyes. Let's get to the lineup though. Let's see. I'm not sure if I recognize too many of those names at the bottom until you get to shit. Like the last three fights are really the only ones I know. Julian Lane is in there. He's a former UFC fighter as well. He was the guy from the Ultimate Fighter who said, "Let me bang, bro," as he's crying and shit. He had a weird mohawk. He's kind of a weird dude. Didn't have a great career in the UFC, but everyone knows him from he's the "Let Me Bang, bro." Julian Lane, he's fought both these guys. He fought Thiago Alves and he fought fucking Mike Perry. So he's down there lower on the card fighting Evgeny Kurdanov. And then you got another former UFC fighter, Ben Rothwell, fighting yet another former UFC fighter, Todd Duffy, which this fight was supposed to happen a while back, but Todd Duffy had some kind of injury, so that fight got postponed until now. You got a former champion, Lorenzo Hunt, fighting Mick Terrell for, that's a championship belt. I'm not exactly sure what weight class that is. I think Terrell is the current champ. Let's see. Light heavyweight. BKFC, cruiser and light heavyweight champion Lorenzo Hunt tries to earn his third BKFC belt when he faces BKFC heavyweight champion Mick Terrell. So he's going for a third title. He's already the champ in two other divisions. All right. This motherfucker, he is a beast. I've seen him fight a couple times, and yeah, he's a badass. So that's the co-main event, and then you get to the main event of Mike Perry versus Thiago Alves. Now, I did kind of roll over Ben Rothwell versus Todd Duffy, but that's a fucking big boy fight right there, heavyweights. And Ben Rothwell is another motherfucker that looks like he was made for BKFC. He's been pretty impressive in his previous fights there. And fighting Todd Duffy, who I hear is pretty good at BKFC as well. So this should be a good one. So those last three fights are what you want to look for. Julian Lane gets into wars all the time, so that should be an exciting one. But there's always bloodshed, and there's always lots of damage taken. Those bare knuckles fuck people up, cut people open, and there's blood always. So, and this is a good example for the main event. You got Mike Perry versus Thiago Alves, and there you go. Prime examples. I mean, that picture of Mike Perry is just fucking pretty goddamn iconic, man. I mean, that's his fight against Julian Lane, just spitting out a mouthful of blood. It's brutal. If you have a weak stomach, you might not want to watch this, because if you look at... oh, man. That came out of nowhere. If you look at these two guys, you see a lot of blood, and that's kind of how most of the fights go in BKFC. I'm doing these nicotine pouches now instead of vaping, which a lot of people are probably like, holy shit, you don't vape anymore. If you know me, I vaped like crazy before. But I do the Rogues now, and I like them a lot. It's just getting nicotine, man. It's just like, I used to smoke cigarettes like crazy. Quit for a long time. Started vaping. That was a mistake. I did that for a long time. I enjoyed it, so I can't really say it was a mistake. It's just something I shouldn't have done for so long. And now I just get my nicotine from these pouches. I know everybody loves Zens. Zens are the popular thing, but I go rogue in multiple definitions on that one. But yeah, they're good. But sometimes, yeah, the nicotine like hits your throat. That's probably what caused me to. I don't know why I'm going off on this tangent. Who the fuck cares, right? Back to the fights. But yeah, if you have a weak stomach, you might not want to watch this. But it's fucking exciting. It's fun. If you're wanting to watch something a little different, you got this to watch on Saturday night as well. While the UFC, I don't know what the time is. It looks like it might be on later than the UFC, so you can watch the UFC first and then watch this after. Apparently, this is gonna be on Peacock too, so that's interesting. But Mike Perry, Thiago Alves, both of them are warriors. Fucking crazy fights. I'll get to Alves first. This is when there's Julian Lane getting hit by him. Alves was a great striker in the UFC when he fought there. So him going over to bare knuckle kind of suits him. It makes sense. But as you can see, they do have wraps on, so they do wrap their wrists. So a lot of people talk shit about that, saying that's not real bare knuckle fighting because there's still stability and protection there. So you don't, if you just fight straight up bare knuckle with nothing, absolutely nothing on, you can't punch as hard because you can break your, you can break your wrist, you can break your knuckles, everything. And you might not hit as hard as you would with gloves on or anything, because with gloves and stuff, you get your hands wrapped, you get your wrists wrapped. That causes that good fucking, like, good stable hand where it doesn't bend when you hit somebody, so you get full impact, full power behind it. So while they're not wearing gloves, they still have these wraps on, and it does make a difference. So it's not full on bare knuckle, but it is, because the knuckles themselves are bare. You have nothing covering the knuckles, no padding of any sort. So you get these cuts, and you get a lot of blood. But yeah, Alves, again, good striker, lots of power, bloody wars is what he gets into, like this one here. And you saw that picture previously where his face was all bloodied up. He takes damage too. Can he handle the damage coming from Mike Perry, who's like the king of BKFC right now? Look at this big fucking... Oh, I forgot about Eddie Alvarez, the Underground King. Fucking, he fought him as well. And this is a big, nasty punch to the chin there. That's a great picture. And then this one against Luke Rockhold, where he basically made Rockhold quit because, he hit him hard enough so many times. He busted a tooth out. Rockhold was like, listen, I'm a fucking male model, and I don't need this shit. So Rockhold was like, I'm done. And he said it, too. He said, fuck that. That was not what I was expecting. That was more brutal than I thought. But he did fight in Karate Combat this last weekend as well, which I didn't cover because I'm not sure how many people really know about Karate Combat. It's kind of cool. It looks like Kumite style shit if you remember Bloodsport. Even their setup, they don't fight in a ring or a cage. It's like this weird pit. It's pretty crazy. It's kind of fun. Benson Henderson and Anthony Pettis fought in it. Sounds like they're getting some traction. So it might be something to look into in the future. But Luke Rockhold just beat Joe Schilling, who's a pretty insane kickboxer, has a lot of accolades there. And he fought in MMA as well, but they fought in Karate Combat, and Rockhold knocked him out. So good for Rockhold there. Not as brutal as bare knuckle boxing. So that might suit him a little better. So I'm thinking this might be pretty exciting. Those last 3 fights especially, oh shit. Big hitters, should be a banger. I'm excited to see what happens there, and see if Mike Perry can come out with another big win against the next UFC fighter and just keep going on this just upward trajectory for his career in BKFC. That about does it for that. Now let's get into the UFC fights for this weekend. And I mean, this might be a shorter show. I always say that in the middle, and then I wind up going to almost 8:30 anyway. But this fight card is not that deep. And I mean, it's okay. I don't want to talk shit. It's nothing special, though. It's just another fight card showcasing fighters that haven't fought in a while. Fighters trying to make their way up the rankings, and sometimes these wind up being some of the best fights. I say that all the time, and it's true. So this could be good. It could turn out to be a lot better than I thought. But with the headliners here, Nicolau versus Alex Perez. I always forget Nicolau's first name. Starts with an M. I don't want to say it wrong, so I'm going to wait until I see it again, because then I'll probably remember how to say it. Let me see here. Is it... It's Mateus Nicolau? Yeah, I think that's how you say it. But him against Alex Perez, that's the main event. Down in the early prelims and prelims, there's not a whole lot going on. Gabriel Benitez versus Mahashate Haiz. That's a fucking rough name. So you got a women's fight there. Couple dudes I've never heard of. Wow, there is some names down here that I don't know that I've ever seen. Dontel Mays versus Kai Machado. So there's one. Austin Hubbard, who was Ultimate Fighter this past season in the lightweight division versus Mikkel Figlak. Ronnie Yaya versus Victor Henry. That should be a good one. But I heard somebody talking shit earlier on a podcast about Ronnie Yaya. And it's like, that motherfucker's still around? I guess he's been around for a long time. He does have a lot of fights under his belt. That's happening in the Bantamweight Championship. Or, I mean, Bantamweight Division. That's the feature fight in the prelims. And then we get to the main event, which, you know, what's weird is there's only 13 fights on this card. It seems very, very short. So, I mean, it's not going to be the longest unless all of these fights go to decision, and that might make for a long night. But otherwise, let's get to, why is my mouse tripping out? I'm trying to scroll up, and it's going down. Okay, so let's get to the main event. I mean, the main card. Tim Means versus Uros Medic. Tim the Dirty Bird Means. He's been around for a long time. Look at the amount of fights. He's 40 years old, 33-15 overall in MMA, 15-1 in the UFC. That is not right. I fucked that up. Let me get to. Yeah, I see what I did there. How did I do that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. My mouse is really tripping on me here. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I must have mixed something up there. Who cares? He's got a lot of losses in the UFC. We'll just say that. He is coming off a win over Andre Fialho. Before that, he was on a 3-fight losing streak. But he is 20-2 in KOs, 5-7 in subs, and 8-6 in decisions. So a good mix of everything there. Losing record in the submission category, but still has some submissions under his belt. And yeah, coming off that win over Andre Fialho, that was a TKO, knee and punches in the third round. That was back in September. And his opponent, Uros Medic. That's a tough one too. His nickname's the Doctor, which is funny because his name looks like it's actually Medic. But because he's from Anchorage, Alaska. What the fuck? His name is definitely not an American name, though. So I don't know where the hell that's from. But he's coming off a loss from back in November. That was a submission loss for him. He has no wins or losses by decision. So his fights don't usually go the distance. 2-2 in subs, 7-0 in KO TKOs. So this could be pretty exciting one here with Tim Means having so many wins in the KO TKO column, and then Medic is basically undefeated there. He is 30 years old, 9-2 in overall, 3-2 in the UFC. He's got wins over Matthew Semmelsberger, Omar Morales, and Elon Cruz. And then he has a loss to Jalen Turner and whoever this guy is. I'm not even going to try to say that name. But yeah, so I mean, like I said, he does not go to decision. And Tim Means is a mix of everything, but he has the most in TKO KOs. So it could be a very exciting first fight on the main card. Tim Means. Oh, shit. Come on, work with me here. Things just aren't, everything, I got little things happening here and there. It's just not working. But Tim Means with that big knee in that last fight that ended it for him. And then Medic also has the heavy hands, big strikes. So, like I said, could be exciting here. I did make picks for this one, and I put that together. We'll go over it at the end. But on this one, I'm going with Medic because he is the, even though Means is kind of the vet, Medic just has I don't know. He is coming off the loss, even though Means is coming off the win. But I have this feeling that Tim Means is not going to do well in this fight. Being the older fighter with all those fights under his belt, he has had the better strength of schedule, but Medic is just kind of on the come up. And I don't know. I just see this one being for him. So let's move on to Jonathan Pierce versus David Onama. I was a little bit torn on this one when it comes down to picking because I've heard a lot of good things about Jonathan Pierce, but David Onama, I've seen him fight a few times before, and he's a damn good fighter. But yeah, similar experience here. We got Jonathan Pierce, 31 years old, 14-5 overall, 5-2 in the UFC. He is coming off a loss to Jordan Brito. Not too many big names under him. Makwan Amirkhani and Darren Elkins, he's got wins over. So that's good. But yeah, he's coming off a loss. 9-1 in KO TKOs, 2-3 in subs, and 3-1 in decisions. And Onama, 29 years old, 11-2, 3-2 in the UFC, 7-0 in KO TKOs, 4-0 in submissions. So basically here, the decisions don't go his way. But he's undefeated in KO TKOs and submissions. So he doesn't like these fights to get to the end either. He wants to finish early. That's what I'm looking at here, because you got Jonathan Pierce being finished by submission in his last fight. He has a couple of losses by TKO or KO, but most of them are by decision. Submission. So, but Onama's 4-0 in submissions as well, and Jonathan Pierce has a losing record in submissions. So I'm just looking at what we have, one outweighing the other. Onama is better in a few categories as opposed to Pierce, where he only gives up the decisions. So if this one doesn't get to the end, I would say Onama's going to take it here. But Jonathan Pierce, like I said, I've heard a lot about him, a lot of good things. Don't remember seeing a lot of his fights before. So when it comes down to it, I'm sticking with the one I know. And for me, that's David Onama. He has good submissions, good striking. His record shows it. And even though he's 3-2 in the UFC, I feel like he might have the upper hand here on Jonathan Pierce. He's coming off that win over Gabriel Santos back in June of last year. Has a loss to Nate the Train. And that's really it when it comes down to it as far as names. So I'm rolling with David Onama here. That's my pick. Let's move on to the former Jacksonville Jaguar, Austin Lane. Tried to make his way into the UFC through the Dana White's Contender Series. He hasn't looked too impressive, though. Unfortunately for him, he just doesn't seem to be able to put it together. He's a great athlete. He's in great shape, but and he has a winning record overall, 12-4 in MMA, but he's 0-1 in the UFC. He didn't look good in that fight. I mean, he has 2 fights in the UFC, but the first one, both his fights are against Justin Tafa. The first one ended in a no contest, 29 seconds into the first round. Accidental eye poke by Justin Tafa there. So they rematched. That was in June of last year. They rematched in September. And then he loses by KO to Justin Tafa. But Justin Tafa is a fucking beast. And you get hit by that guy, not too many people are going to stay on their feet. But Austin Lane won by TKO in Dana White's Contender Series in September of 22. So we'll see. He's looking for his first UFC win here. He's 11-4 in KO TKOs, 1-0 in submissions, and he has no wins and no losses by decision. Coming off a loss, like I said, to Justin Tafa. So he's not looking to let this fight get to the third round, to the end of the third round. He's not looking to go to decision here. Let's look at his opponent, Jonata Denise, I believe is how you say his name. And even though he looks whiter than shit, he's a Brazilian. He's undefeated overall, 6-0, 32 years old. This is his UFC debut, so he's looking to get his first win in the UFC as well. 6-0 in KO TKOs, and he has absolute goose eggs everywhere else. All of his wins in MMA have been by KO or TKO. So this could be a very, very fast fight. Just like that fight with Justin Tafa for Austin Lane, he better cover up and he better make sure he gets to landing shots before Denise does, because it looks like he's a finisher. All of his fucking 6 fights are first round KO or TKOs. He even retired a guy a couple fights ago. So he's a fucking, he sounds like a beast. He's dangerous, and Austin Lane needs to watch himself. Here's a big kick, though. I mean, Lane does have those big-ass legs, and he knows how to use them. He does have some pretty decent kicks for as big of a guy as he is. Here he is landing a good one to the body of Justin Tafa, which could have been detrimental to him if, Tafa wasn't able to gather himself and come back and land a big shot on Lane. But Dana White's Contender Series as well. That was his last fight, and it was a KO by punches in the first round. Like I said, against Eduardo Nieves. But he was impressive in that. So that should be a good one. Moving on to the women's division. I think, if my stream deck wants to work. There we go. We got Ariane Lipski versus Karine Silva. This should be a good one as well. The women, they go to decision a lot, but Lipski's been involved in some pretty exciting fights. This is in the flyweight division against Karine Silva, who I believe is undefeated in the UFC. By the way, I did go with Denise in that last fight. I'll go over all my picks at the end, and I'll have a graphic to show. But I do want to remember to tell you who I went with. Ariane Lipski, though, is 30 years old, 17-8 overall, 6-5 in the UFC. That's not a great record. She's almost at 500. At least it's a winning record, but I mean, she's a pretty damn good fighter either way. 6-4 in KO, TKOs, 4-0 in submissions, and 7-4 by decision. She is on a 3-fight winning streak with wins over JJ Aldridge, Melissa Gatto, and Casey O'Neill. That Casey O'Neill fight was pretty fucking good. And then let's see, she's fought a lot of other big names: Antonina Shevchenko, Montana De La Rosa, Priscilla Cachoeira. Those are all losses. But she has wins over Luana Carolina. She lost to Molly McCann and Joanne Wood. So it seems like she loses to the bigger names. But I mean, Melissa Gatto, Casey O'Neill, and JJ Aldridge, those are pretty decent fighters as well. And she's gotten wins over them for those 3-fight win streaks, or the 3-fight winning streak she's on. Karine Silva is her opponent, and she is 30 years old as well, 17-4 overall, 3-0 in the UFC. But like I said, she's 8-0 in her last 8 fights. She's won all of them, and it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They're all finishes, mostly by submission. One by TKO, but that was an arm injury. So there is one TKO by punches as well. So damn, her last 8 fights are pretty fucking impressive. All of them in the first round except for one was in the second. So if we can get this past the first round for Lipski and stay off the fucking ground, she might have a chance here. And I do believe I picked Lipski because she was the underdog. And I don't know, I got this strange feeling she's coming out to keep that win streak alive. But Silva is undefeated in the UFC. 9-1 overall KO TKOs, 8-2 in submissions, and 0-1 by decision. So if this fight goes to decision, it doesn't look good for her, but that's only one fight. Like I said, she's on a 3-fight win streak in the UFC, but an 8-fight win streak overall. And Lipski is good on the ground, though, as far as offensively, with this nasty armbar she got in her last fight against Casey O'Neill. But Silva is way more dangerous down there with so many submission wins, but she also has big strikes. That's a big head kick there. She's a pretty well-built woman. She's a pretty big girl, and she's got some power behind those strikes. So that should be a pretty exciting one in the women's division. Moving on to the co-main, Ryan Spann versus Bogdan Guskov. Let's see, did I say? I think I did. I said I picked Lipski in that last fight. She is the underdog. So I went with her in that one. But Ryan Spann versus Bogdan Guskov in the light heavyweight division. Ryan Spann's 32 years old, 21-9 overall, 7-4 in the UFC. 6-3 in KO TKOs, but 12-3 in submissions. So he's got pretty good ground game there. 3-3 by decision. He is on a 2-fight losing streak though. And let's see who those losses are to. Anthony Smith and Nikita Krylov. So those, I mean, no joke there, big names. But he does have a big, impressive win over a former title contender and a Dominic Reyes. That was a KO win for him in the first round. That was a nasty one. And then Ian Cutelaba as well. That was a submission win. He fought Anthony Smith one other time before and lost that one as well. He's definitely has a lot of big names. Misha Serkinov, that's a win. Johnny Walker was a loss. Sam Elvey win. Devin Clark win. And let's see, Lil Nog, he has a win over. So, I mean, he's got some pretty good wins under his belt. Just a mix of things, too. Decisions, submissions, KO, TKOs, all that. But his opponent, Bogdan Guskov, 31 years old, 15-3 overall. He's 1-1 in the UFC. 13-1 overall KO, TKOs. So he definitely likes to be on the feet. 2-1 by submission and 0-1 by decision. Coming off a win over Zach Puega back in February of this year. That was a KO by punches in the first round. And he has his losses to Volkan Oezdemir, which is a hell of a fight for his debut. That was a submission loss for him in the first round. But yeah, before that, he was on a 4-fight win streak before he got to the UFC. So maybe he's trying to put together another big win streak here in the UFC. But he's got to get past Ryan Spann first. And, yeah, Ryan Spann's a big dude. He didn't look good against Anthony Smith. Like, he just could not put it together against Anthony Smith. But Anthony Smith is one of those guys that is really tough against certain people and just can't keep it together against others. Ryan Spann's just one of those guys that he has his number. So, but Spann has big strikes, very good on the ground. There's a big fucking punch against Dominic Reyes. So, yeah, I mean, Ryan Spann has the talent, he has the ability to finish fights. It's just a matter of where and how, and if he can get to it first. And Guskov, there wasn't a whole lot on him. Obviously, from the UFC, he's only 1-1. But here's a big punch from him. He kind of looks like Anthony Smith, which is weird. A lot of people have said that too. And now looking at this picture, you can really tell he's just missing all the tattoos. The facial structure is a little bit different, but with that head, those ears, and I mean, in the face too, they look similar. So hopefully that doesn't get in Ryan Spann's head and hinder his performance. I don't remember who I went with in this one. I think I might have gone with Ryan Spann. Now that I'm second guessing myself, because with this guy looking kind of like Anthony Smith, that might fuck with Ryan Spann, and that could be a bad thing. So I might have picked wrong on that one. But let's get to the main event and wrap this up. Mateus Nicolau versus Alex Perez. This is happening in the lightweight division, I think. Flyweight division. What the fuck am I saying? Flyweight division. I just saw lightweight somewhere else. I think that's what it was. Mateus Nicolau, though, 31 years old, 19-3 overall, 7-2 in the UFC, 5-3 in KO, TKOs, 5-0 in submissions, 9-0 in decisions. So it's looking like you don't want to go to decision or submissions with Nicolau because he's undefeated there. But he is coming off a loss. Let's check and see who that was to. Coming off a loss to Brandon Royval, who just fought for the title. So, I mean, that's no joke there. That was a KO in the first round for him, though. Before that, he was on a 6-fight win streak. So, pretty impressive there. Wins over Match Now, David Dovrak, Tim Elliott, Manel Kopp. Those are all pretty good names there. Mostly all decisions, though. And then one submission and one KO in that 6-fight win streak. Only 4 of those fights were in the UFC, though. Which are the names I just gave you. So that was his first I'm sorry, that was his second loss in UFC. Wait, hold on. Oh, I see what happened here. He was in the UFC before. Oh shit, I might have fucked this up. No, I didn't. That's right. Anyway, he fought John Moraga as well. Luis Smoka got wins over them. All these are by decision though. So his recent fights were KOs, one loss, one win, and yeah. So his opponent is Alex Perez, and I think Alex Perez is the underdog here. And I do believe I picked Nicolau, even though Perez is on a 3-fight losing streak. So that's what kind of threw me off there. He's looking to get back in the win column, but I mean, he hasn't looked too impressive in this, past few fights. He's 24-8 overall, 6-4 in the UFC, 5-1 in KO, TKO, 7-5 in submissions, and 12-2 by decision. Like, that's a lot of fucking decision wins. So I mean, this could be a battle for who wins by decision. Let's see. If my mouse would stop acting stupid, I could see. Okay. 0-3 in his last 3 fights. Muhammad Mukayev, Alexander Pantoja, and Davison Figueiredo. One former champion, the current champion, and then Mukayev, who's a fucking beast, were his last three losses. So big names, big opposition there. 2 submissions to the former and current champion, and then his last fight lost by decision. But he does have wins over Jussier Formiga, Mark De La Rosa, Jordan Espinoza. Yeah, so I mean, and everything's mixed up. Submissions, decisions, TKOs, KOs. But yeah, so it's looking like we might get a full 5-round fight here between these two, or maybe somebody pulls out a finish, which would be great and not end the night. Hopefully, if it is a decision fight, it's exciting because both these guys can kind of do everything. They got strikes, they got ground games. Nicolau has pretty big strikes, but Perez is looking to get in that win column after 3 straight losses. And, it's never good when you have 3 losses in a row in the UFC. So he's looking to make sure he doesn't get cut. But he does have these big fights against, big names like Figueiredo and Pantoja. So I guess we'll just have to see what he can do here with Nicolau, who's a tough opponent as well. I'm hoping for a good fight here. I mean, some of the lower, some of the fights on the underneath this main event seem like they might get to be a little more exciting, but you never know. We'll see how it turns out. Here's my picks overall. Again, I went with Nicolau. He's the favorite, -180. I went with Ryan Spann, who's the favorite as well, -185. Ariane Lipski over Silva. That might bite me in the ass, but I'm not betting on these. These are just my picks overall. So Lipski is a +124 favorite. Underdog. So, that's kind of a close one. I think Silva was only -155. Johanata Denise is a -278. He's one of the biggest favorites on the main card. I went with him on that fight. David Onama is an underdog +124 as well. I went with him, but it's almost a pick 'em there. So that's not too far off, and hopefully he pulls that one out. And then you got Uros Medic to start the main card. He's a -305, the biggest favorite in the main card. So there you go. Those are my picks. We'll see how I do this week. Haven't done the best. I don't know why I even make picks because I just disappoint myself. But MMA is tough to bet on and make picks for. But I'll do it anyway because it just adds another level of things to the podcast. So if you want to follow them, I'm sorry if you lose. And if you win, good, great, grand, wonderful, perfect. That's it, though. I'm done. That wraps it up. And that's it for episode 95 of the Going Rounds podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Do all the good shit for YouTube, please. Anything will help. Comment. hit the notification bell, like, subscribe, all that good shit. Follow my social media going on down there. It's been going on down there on the left-hand side and the other screen as well. Facebook and Instagram is where I am doing most of the postings. It's just where I get the most news. X/Twitter. I'm just not on there much because get overwhelmed with the bullshit on that platform. But then I make some TikToks too, here and there. Bloopers from the show or just interesting stuff, good reactions, stuff like that. So go check it out. If you want to follow me on any of those, you can get a lot of news from Facebook especially, but Instagram as well. If you don't want to follow or look for all the other sites to post things, follow me. I'll give you all of it. And that's about it. So thanks for, if you're still here watching or if you're watching this after the fact, I appreciate it. Just hit that like button at least. It helps me out. Other than that, I'm done. We'll be back next week on Thursday again to go over these fights from this weekend, and there'll be another. I don't think is. Let me double check. I don't know that when the next fight is after that. Because I know that. Oh shit! It's 301. Oh, that's right. May 4th. Okay, so next week we'll be going over the next pay-per-view. So that's good. And maybe I'll make up my mind whether I'm going to do a watch party because it's been a minute. And I'd like to do it. This is going to be the event in Brazil, I believe, in Rio, with the return of the King of Rio himself, Jose Aldo. Anthony Smith, who we talked about earlier, is fighting on this card. Pantoja versus Urseg for the flyweight championship, I believe. Flyweight championship. Co-main, Jonathan Martinez versus Aldo. Paul Craig fighting Kyle Baralio. Michelle Pereira versus Ihor Pretoria. Anthony Smith versus Vitor Petrino. Lots of Brazilians on this card. Let's see the undercard here. Karolina Kovacevic is fighting. Jack Shore. Let's see. That looks like it. Early prelims. Joaquim Silva versus Drakkar Klose. Clark will be happy about that one because he's boys with Drakkar Klose. Jamie Malarkey. So, yeah, some pretty good fights. Vince Pichel coming back finally against Ismael Bonfim. Ooh, that's going to be a fucking tough one. So, yeah, come back next week. We'll recap these fights from this weekend and go over that pay-per-view and hopefully be able to announce a watch party. So, yeah, we'll see you next week. I'm done. I'm out of here. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the fights, BKFC, UFC. That's all that's going on this weekend. So check it out. All happening Saturday night. PFL's tomorrow night as well. I didn't cover that one. Not a whole lot going on there. Tomorrow night, though, check that out. ESPN, ESPN Plus if you want to watch some PFL. And Saturday will be a couple big fights. So enjoy all that. I'm out. See you next week. Peace.